about an hour and a half late. And I learned the songs, but I played them as poorly as I could possibly play them. I played them so stiff. That hi-hat, I had it with my foot on it so tight that I thought it was going to break. It was like this crazy woodpecker, you know what I mean, that I knew was just going to irritate everybody. And after about 4 or 5 songs, the common decision was that I was not the right drummer for the band, and that's how I bowed out of that situation.
Yeah, that was basically the last attempt to keep that configured. Yeah, to keep it going, because Randy was really leaning towards leaving. Because his mom told him, "Listen, if you stay in LA and you miss out on this chance, there's a good probability that Quiet Riot, the type of music that you guys are doing, is never going to come back." Because that was pretty much the consensus.
Correct.
Heavy metal or even rock and roll. If it wasn't punk or new wave, it ain't coming back.
Correct.
So his mom, kind of like told him, you should give it a try.
Yeah.
To go out to England and work with Ozzy, which actually just. It left a big void and with me.
You guys were tight.
Yeah, we were tight. I mean, not only as friends, but also of like, what do we do now? All I knew when I came back from New Jersey back to LA, I was immediately a member of Quiet Riot. So that's what I did. We weren't making any money, as you know. I mean,
it was costing you money.
It was costing us money. Yeah. Any money that we made at the Starwood or playing the whiskey went back to rehearsal.
Right.
To pay for expenses and a truck to move the equipment or a couple of roadies or whatever. So it was actually I wound up playing with Angel.
I remember.
And they had just lost their deal with Casablanca.
Yeah.
So they were looking for a deal, and John Colatner was interested in signing them, and we were doing a lot of rehearsals and a lot of recordings.
You had a lot of white in your wardrobe already, so you were okay.
Yeah, I did, and I had the right haircut. Right. So it all worked out. It was, and I moved out of that place on Palm, and Kevin came to pick me up, and I stayed with him. But part of me staying with him was that I was going to play in Dubrow.
Right.
Which is fine. I get to play around town because I wasn't really active outside of rehearsals and recording in the studio with Angel.
Right.
So that was perfect. I got to play, got to hang out. Kevin and I went out every night, going to Starwood. He had this really cool Corvette, and there was a lot of fun.
Did he have the Corvette at that point? Because
I
remember
the red Corvette.
He had the yellow.
He had that first.
He had the yellow one, yeah.
Yes, he did. Which the Carmen Gia.
Yeah, which the first time he came over to my house and I saw that. No, it was an Opel.
Opel, yes, Opel GT. Yes.
And I said, "Where'd you get the fake vet?"
Yeah.
Which did not go over well with him.
And then he got the Corvette.
Right.
And we had a great time. As a matter of fact, when I got the call from Sharon to audition, I was sleeping on Kevin's floor. Yep. And after I turned it down, because I just, I needed to give her an answer on the spot.
Sure.
About coming down to audition. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm already in a band. And she just hung up on me.
Yep. Yeah, that's the Arden style.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Kevin says, what was that? And I tell him, and he starts yelling at me, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm coming to my senses now, And then the next day, unbeknownst to me, Ozzy called me himself and say, listen, Randy's been telling me about you and blah, 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 And, then I joined the band, of course. But what were you doing right there in that early part of 81, late 80s?
Well, first going back to when you were in Dubrow, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we actually did a gig that had all the future Metal Health musicians playing at the Starwood in different bands at the same time. Snow was headlining with Carlos. Dubrow was in the middle spot with you playing bass, and Monarch was the opening act with me on drums.
I remember that. And you had the green sparkle?
Green sparkle kit, yeah.
With the, what was it, a frog?
Yeah, with Kermit the Frog.
Kermit the Frog.
Yeah. Kermit the Frog in bondage, if we want to get it. You know, I had little black tape on his nipples, you know, and he was gagged, and he was, you know, tied up to my bass drum. Yeah.
Now tell me, you know, I don't think we've ever had this conversation, you know.
And we've had many.
But I never really asked you, while I was still playing with Ozzy, this is after Randy's plane crash. You know, I'm not even going to go into the details because I've you know, I don't want to get in that emotional state. But it was basically I needed to move on. I really needed to move on because I needed some emotional refuge. And at the time, it was like, you know, how do you leave this incredible band that you've been, you know, part of, and also,
you helped build,
you know, know, being there and so on, and where am I going to go?
Yeah,
you know, and I get a call from Kevin.
Yeah.
And while Randy was still alive, as a matter of fact, it was that time that we did the jam session that Dubrow was playing at the Whiskey.
At the Whiskey, yes.
And
we did Slick Black Cadillac and Back to the Coast.
Yeah. And Kevin borrowed Bob Steffen's Dean that everybody keeps on social media saying, what guitar? When did Randy
start playing Dean guitars?
Yeah. No, that wasn't his guitar.
No,
you know.
It was a one-off.
Yeah. And so at that break, which was the last break that we had in L.A. when Randy, you know, and then we went back on the road and the plane crash happened, Kevin asked him about renaming the new band Quiet Riot.
Right.
And Randy gave him his blessings.
Right.
And of course, I gave him my blessings too, you know. And fast forward, a few months later, I get the phone call from Kevin saying, hey, you want to come down and we're making this record. And would you like to come down and play on Thunderbird, which I had played with originally in Dubrow.
Right.
You know, I mean, I was still the bass player in Dubrow when he wrote that song.
Correct.
Which he wrote that song when Randy was still alive and had left Quiet Riot.
Right. And it was about Randy leaving Quiet Riot. Riot, not Randy passing away.
Exactly. So I came in to Pasha. This is during a break. I brought with me my practice bass, because all my gear was with the Aussie equipment. So I had this Roland synthesizer bass, you know, that I was using to, you know, just to practice, have something when I was back in LA. And I brought that in, and we do Thunderbird, you know, a couple takes, you know. And so you guys said, hey, do you remember any of the other songs? And we wound up cutting Slick Black and maybe
Let's Get Crazy.
Yeah,
Loves a Bitch.
Loves a Bitch, you know, those songs. And I had the sense of like, wow, feels so good. I mean, I have been playing, of course, like we started the conversation, since 1972, even before being in LA, you know, so you and I, you know,
we share that DNA.
Yeah, we're family, you know. Playing again with Kevin and Carlos, which I only knew from the, you know, the circuit. It felt great. It felt like I hadn't felt since Randy had passed away, you know.
Yeah, it was a real positive atmosphere at that point in time in the band.
It was, and it just lingered. I didn't make a decision right there and then, but I knew, and as things progress, and within a few weeks, I made up my mind that I was actually going to leave one of the biggest bands in the world for the unknown, but I would be happy. The joy of playing will be back in my life. You know, which after all, without that, what are we doing?
What do you have?
You know, what do we have?
The only
Nothing.
reason we continue to do this is because we still love it.
Absolutely. Even to this day, more than ever. You know, I mean, the challenges that you and I, you know, face with the industry going through all these changes, it's never ending.
Yeah.
Never ending. You have to adapt every single day. But at the end of the day, whether it's because of traveling right now is such a nightmare.
Yeah.
Compared to the way it used to be, flying and going through TSA and all of that.
And everything is a connection now. Yeah, I always tell people that musicians don't get paid for the 2 hours on stage. We get paid for the other 22
Absolutely.
hours.
But at the end of the day, the audience really doesn't care.
No, it's not their problem.
Exactly.
And we don't make it their problem.
Yeah.
We're there to entertain them.
Yeah.
We're there to take them away from their own personal problems.
Exactly. So, what's really fuzzy with me is what happened right after I did the session, from the time that I did the session into the time that I actually joined the band. There must have been about maybe 3-4 weeks in between.
Yeah.
What were you guys doing?
Well, the chronology of it is a lot of people think that we parted company with Chuck in order to bring you back into the band, which that was not the case.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, the situation with Chuck, at that point, Chuck didn't really see a future with Dubrow. He didn't believe in the band. He didn't really think it was going to do anything. He's an incredible bass player. There's pretty much nothing he can't play. And so he was branching out. He wanted to do different things. So he wasn't as committed as a new band, struggling, trying to, we were doing production demos and things like that. So we're trying to get to the next level, and we cannot afford a weak link, and that's when we parted company. And we auditioned a variety of bass players, and none of them were really a good fit. So when you came back in and did the tracks with us, I had a conversation with Kevin, and I said, two things are clear to me. The first thing was that Ozzy would continue with his career because he's essentially a solo artist, but it's never going to be the same without Randy. So that's not to say that they're going to break up. They're going to continue. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I knew how unhappy you were in the situation, because now you have to continue wearing the same stage clothes, playing the same songs you were playing with Randy, with a different guitar player up there. It didn't matter who it was. It wasn't Randy. And I sensed that. And I said to Kevin, before we make a firm decision on how we're going to proceed as far as the bass player thing is concerned, because there was no rush to do it. We weren't really playing gigs at that point in time, and we were just basically recording piecemeal on available time, but paying card rate. And I said, let's see what's going to happen with Rudy, because I know enough of your inner strength and the person that you are, that you would rather do something that's positive in your life than do something that's financially more lucrative. And so we waited, and the gamble paid off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do remember when I did the session, the first session.
Yeah.
That the bass player that came in was Tony Cavazzo.
Right.
Because you guys tracked Come On Feel the Noise.
Yeah.
On that same session, right after we were done with my contribution at that moment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really recall was you and Kevin in the hallway of Pasha having a little meeting right before you guys went into track Come and Feel the Noise.
Yeah.
You want to share that with us?
Yeah. The whole thing about and Tony, first of all, Tony is a really, really good bass player and a really nice guy. I really like him, but I knew from the get-go that he was not going to be the right guy for the situation. And I also knew that we were having him come down as a courtesy because it was Carlos's brother, not expecting it to go anywhere. The whole thing with Come On Feel the Noise is Spencer, it was his idea to do the song. And it was a logical